All right, so we are here today to talk about A Crisis of Purpose, episode 3. This is a meaty one, and what better place to do it? We're sitting here in the office of Miles Salisbury. This room looks like it's for finding your direction, for healing, for getting your mental and spiritual faculties organized. There's a lot of powerful messaging here. We've got medical books, we've got books on philosophy, we've got certifications, we've got art, we've got tomes from every kind of author under the sun, and we've got quotes from Jocko Willink and even the Black Mamba, Kobe Bryant. So there's a lot of good energy here to help us figure out our purpose.
And then electroshock therapy again is in the back.
That's right. Okay. So if we feel stuck, we can just unstick ourselves with some electrodes.
Shock ourselves.
So the crisis of purpose, which is like a topic that every person, man, woman, child, old, young, has gone through for at least a second or two or many moments in their lives. It's certainly a conversation in the United States because of the great independence and individuality that we have. A lot of people don't feel a sense of community or an overarching sense of purpose. And I've struggled with this. You've struggled with this. So I'm turning 40. You're 46. Have you dealt with this in the past, present? Like, what's your experience with finding your purpose, deciding which direction you want to go?
Yeah, so I think this hits a few times in life. It depends on what we're talking about. And it's ironic we're sitting in a room where this is a place where this comes up a lot, in the therapy room, or however you want to call it. When you said that, I first thought of the way Dr. James Hollis talks about it. He jokingly says the first half of life is largely a mistake. We're just screwing things up, learning, failing forward. We're checking the boxes life tells you to do, like go to school, get a job, get a retirement plan, blah, blah, blah. And then the second half of life hits, and it's what he calls either midlife crisis or midlife transition. And you got to decide what that is. If you're doing it consciously and listening to what the psyche is trying to beckon you towards, that's a lot harder. But that's on purpose. A midlife transition crisis is when you let the ego take the seat, and you trade up your wife for the trophy wife, or you hate a job, or you think I'll just work twice as hard. I'll do this until I'm 65, and then I'll retire, and then I'll live. But then what, right? You retire, and then what? Then who are you? What are you doing? And a lot of people get really depressed after they've played like 90 rounds of golf, and they're like, who am I? What am I doing? And a lot of people actually die. They have heart attacks, and like there's something going on there with the physical body. So you gotta pay attention to that. Usually hits between 35 and 65 for people, that second half of life thing. But your first one hits when you're younger. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? That whole thing. Like that's your first little taste of what purpose and meaning is. Like, what am I doing? Why am I here? And the culture around you, your parents will kind of dictate those terms if you're not careful. Like my dad said, you're going to college, and I went to be the Marines. Should have listened to my inner self, right? And that's what Jung would say, and James Hollis says, is when you listen to the psyche, what is it beckoning you towards? What wants to come through you into the world? And what are we doing here? What gives you joy? How do you want to help others? Whatever that is for you.
Well, yeah, your first half of your life is largely a mistake. It depends on like what your definition of success is, but I mean, I think a lot of people would agree with you. And it's really a relief to hear very successful people echo that because when we all think we're going to be the one that like has the self-awareness, or
Of course.
when I was younger, I thought I would be the one that would navigate around a big pitfall. And because I'd shown some wisdom in some areas of my life, I was like, oh, I'm the person who sees the minefield and I avoid it. And then absolutely not. Scott Galloway, who is very, very popular right now. He's pushing 60. I think he's going to be 60 this year. We talked about his first marriage basically happening because his friends were getting married. He was dating someone nice.
Exactly.
He was successful. It seemed like a logical next step.
Logical.
It felt like if he didn't do it, he was avoiding responsibility or falling behind or whatever. Mm-hmm. And, he married a good person. It was a bad fit. And a lot of us do. I did that.
Happens, yeah.
And I think I'm shocked at how easy, whether it's choosing a career, choosing a partner, choosing a place to live, some small decisions, some large decisions, how we borrow, we're not even making decisions off of our own value systems. We're making them off of other people's value systems or what we believe them to be. And hell, sometimes they're not even navigating off of a real GPS system. They're just also in the same sort of life momentum and terrified of being alone or uncertain or not taking the job in Denver, and so they do it, and then it ends up being a painful experience.
Yes.
Now, I think that all leads you somewhere. My spiritual belief is that it's all happening for you to help wake you up. But it doesn't feel like that in the moment.
Hell no.
So I got very lucky in that, like, I kind of, the things that I was doing that were that were adventurous. I had a sort of something going on inside of me, self-interest mostly, that I was I didn't feel good at, like, when I was a young sergeant in the Army. I didn't feel good at my job. If I had felt more competent and confident, I might have done 20 or 30 years. Mm-hmm. But because I felt mediocre and frustrated all the time, and my job required that some or all of my time would be spent in a waterless beach, I didn't want that. So it was painful. I wasn't good at it. It was cool. Like, it was a romantic job, but like, in hindsight, I think, like people would say, like, oh, you had a good gig, you had an impact, you were doing something, important, but it didn't feel that way to me. I felt like a fish out of water. I felt like I didn't belong. The culture of the Army was different than my personal culture at the time. And so I had this feeling of not belonging and not being good. So that it was easy for me to exit. And I kept looking for those things that were a little bit more instant gratification to give me some payoff, to feel like, ooh, this is fun and I'm good at it. And fitness was that for me. And even though I couldn't make a living on it when I started, I was like, ooh, this is so much fun, I'll figure that part out. And then I swam in that water. But if I had been a little bit older, or a little bit wiser, or a little bit more successful, it could have been easily the other way. Mm-hmm. It just happened to be. And who knows what if I had 2 lives to lead, what that other branch would have turned into. But right. I'm very happy with the way things have gone, and I have grown in all kinds of very important ways to me, and also like health being a lot more important to me than being a subject matter expert in counterterrorism of very specific Asian and East Asian militant groups. That was pursuing a rabbit hole I didn't really want to like live in all the time. So it was a little bit out of alignment for my personal identity, the role I wanted to play. My values I hadn't that hadn't come through yet, so I really didn't know. I did. A lot of the Army values were my values, and then some of them weren't. And then, but my curiosity was not being satiated, because even though I liked contributing, I didn't really like the role I was in, the job. So I wasn't like happy, like, ooh, great.
The day-to-day.
Yeah, the day-to-day was tough. So, I know, and I had to do a lot of PowerPoint, and that's not my strength. Spreadsheets.
Death by PowerPoint. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I know. I mean, like, it makes me happy to hear other veterans talk about fist fights over PowerPoint. I'm like, yeah, people were about to get murdered. People were gonna get. I might have been one of the ones to get murdered because I was not good at PowerPoint, and so yeah, so pain motivation was a big part of me getting out of that and getting toward like being pain motivated to get into something that I wanted to be a part of, which was the health and fitness industry and nutrition and personal training, and that led me to find my community, and that started me on the quest to unearth my values and jump into different roles within that.
Pain motivation.
Fear.
Does motivate.
I needed to. I was not happy with everything I was doing. Was getting under my skin, and my day to day, and I wasn't playing to my strengths. And then as soon as I started to get some of that alignment, like it felt so easy. It felt so easy to read another book on strength and conditioning. It felt so easy to go to another course. It felt so easy to, when I wanted to take a course that I couldn't afford, I
figured it out.
I figured it out. I literally sold my concealed carry. I was a big weapons guy. I sold my concealed carry to pay for the plane ticket.
Wow.
Because I was like, this is going to get me the ability to eventually someday come back and buy another one. I know I can come back to this, but I need to go here to get better. And like that's how committed I was. And I was like, an even trade. I had you guys, I was driving a 66 Impala. All right? This freaking machine, jet black interior, jet black exterior, chrome and American muscle, 327.
Damn.
Blah, blah, blah. 2-speed, twin exhaust. God, I looked so good in that car. Everyone would look so good in that car. It was so much fun to drive, and I sold it because to get the first and last in this personal training studio, it was really nice. I needed to have a few $1,000s in a new certification. So I sold my car, my dope car, and it was also expensive to drive, and there was some other problems. But I sold this beautiful freaking car so that I could get to where I needed to go, and I was committed to getting to a different place in my life. Now at the time, I didn't know you didn't have to cannibalize your life. I would have sold some training and sold some product to get in there, but at the time those were the tools I had, and that's how committed I was. I knew that that's where I wanted to be.
That's a trailhead to purpose and meaning. When it feels good or you're willing to make those sacrifices, you just do it. That's a good. You're on the right path when that's happening. And that's a good indicator.
Yeah, and I sometimes now like I see people and I see them talk themselves out of commitment that's painful. It's like, oh, I'll have to tighten my belt, or I'll have to. Yeah, but what if it like changes your life? Like, what if it exposes you to something you don't know exists?
It will, by the way. If that's what we're going for here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a midlife crisis.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, the whole purpose is to jump into the uncertainty. To not.
Sucks. It's scary. It's scary as fuck. But.
So, when it comes to your personal crisis of purpose, and mine, and Miles's, and anyone who's faced with this, like, you want to get clear on what itch you're trying to scratch. And there's a great diagram called the Ikigai diagram.
Japanese for purpose and meaning or something like that?
Japanese for life purpose.
Life purpose.
And I'm going to look at this so I can read it off, and you can Google it, and it'll pop right up. But the Ikigai diagram has four circles, this Venn diagram, and the one circle is what you love, one circle is what the world needs, one circle is what you can be paid for, and one circle is what you're good at. So that's playing to your strengths, playing to your passions and curiosity, playing to what your community needs from you, or what the world needs from you, what the pain point is for the marketplace, what your opportunity is, what the opportunity is to fit in with your skills, and obviously what can compensate you. And it's really easy to get stuck in one of those. A lot of people don't like to do things they're not good at. A lot of people don't like to do things they don't get paid for. And I've been stuck in all of them, but the one that kept me trapped the longest was, and I couldn't, because I needed money. I needed to stay focused on how to monetize my skill set. And not everything that you do that grows you and that like touches your heart is going to be something you're going to get paid for. But there was a time where I couldn't really look past that.
Easy.
But I love that's a great launch point for going deeper on what your personal purpose is, and what you're good at, what you can be paid for, what the world needs, and what you personally care about. What you like, a question that often like kicks people off is like, what did you do when you were a kid for fun? What would you do with your friends just to pass the time? What would you do if you had all the time and money in the world? How would you want to spend your time? That sort of leads people to what they care about the most, what your personal curiosity is, what your personal passions are. And funniest thing, when I was in Roseburg, Oregon, not only did I not know what personal training was or fitness, we had one gym. We had a YMCA. We had no trainers. I think there is another gym there now. There might be like an Anytime Fitness or something, but there wasn't personal trainers. There was no CrossFit. There was none of that. It wasn't what I did and what my friends did. We worked out with each other, and I would go to another person's house who had a weight bench or something in their garage, and I would have them show me what they were doing, and then I would add that into my routine, and I would make my friends work out with me, whether they wanted to or not. It was just sort of the thing. I had a bunch of D&D friends. We'd get together and do role playing.
Mm-hmm. You're Roseburg.
Yeah.
You guys have like stoplights and McDonald's down
there? Yeah. We did at McDonald's. There are multiple stoplights. 20,000 people. But we were just nerds. And I would just say it's like before we play video games or before we do any RPG stuff, we're gonna lift. And 100 like all of them were like, hell yeah.
Nice.
They're like, that's exactly what we want to do.
That's a good combo right there.
It's a great combo.
Mm-hmm.
Getting in
rare probably for those two don't intersect often, I would imagine.
No, that was my role. That was why I was there. I was there to make sure that people were benching.
And then you can geek out.
That's right. Then you can geek out. So it found me. So my purpose found me unconsciously. It was fitness for me was the first time I felt good, like I had my own agency over my own experience, and like I felt strong and confident when I was training. And I would just read books on training, and we talk about my origin story in another episode, but it was something that was important to me. I made other people do it. It was just something that I was so fired up about it. I got everybody around me fired up about it automatically. Mm-hmm. And
good trailhead.
Yeah, it was great. And I didn't even know that could be a job. Like I in the Army, it was an extra duty to help people get in shape who were injured or couldn't meet the Army standard for some reason. And it's just something like wherever I went, I was always just training people, and I wanted to make people feel good. I wanted to help. I wanted to get early promotion. So there's opportunities there.
Yeah.
But it was just always a role that I had filled, and I didn't know there was any money associated with it until much later.
Isn't that interesting? Or is that cheesy saying, do the work that you love and the money will come? I mean, sometimes that's true.
Yeah, I think, yes. And the problem with that is that people take this shit a little too literally because, like a personal trainer, like, I never hired a personal trainer until I'd been a personal trainer for years and wanted to learn faster. And then I'd buy 10 sessions from another trainer and be like, okay, how are you warming these people up? What are you doing with them? What's your applications? What's your sequencing? What's going on here?
Smart, yeah.
And so once I did that 3 or 4 times, I started to realize that nobody really knows that much. And then I started to go to different, different sources. But, I would never it never in my mind was it like product market fit where I was like, oh, everyone wants personal training. Like I would never buy personal training because I was so passionate about, and I would read the books. The books I got from the library. This was not the internet. Like I was reading real books.
Paper.
So paper. So for me, I was like, oh, anybody could do this. This wasn't a revenue stream. This was something that's like, oh, we could all do this. And later on, I learned that people hired trainers. But even then, if you're somebody who's thinking, well, my skill set, it's not worth very much. If you look online, and I think we were talking about this last time, the salary of a personal trainer is quite low. It's like $39,000 a year, which, not knocking anybody making that or less, but it's difficult to raise a family on that if you're trying to be independent. That's not motivation enough if you don't really love what you're doing.
No way.
So if you're Googling things to see what you could get paid, you're probably not on the right wavelength yet.
Mm-hmm.
You may be close, but that's not. There's always a way, right? Because then if you go, well, maybe I can't be training but I could be a gym owner. I could hire personal trainers,
mm-hmm.
right? I could be a PT assistant. I could be there's all kinds of different modalities, just ways.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're focused on your compensation first, that's probably not the most.
So you want to build your house on.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're probably not at the right spot yet.
Mm-hmm. That's an easy trap. It may make sense, but yeah, it's not going to give you purpose and meaning.
So I was motivated because it made me feel good. It cured something. Something clicked in me that was like, okay, this doesn't fix everything, but I feel better, stronger. I feel more me if I am lifting, if I'm doing this. What was your way into mental health?
Intro to dance in college by accident. You never know what door will open up a completely different door, completely unrelated. And there's a whole long story on how this happened, and I don't know if this episode we want to get into that. We can. It's more of the origin story.
I love it. But you took a dance class, which
because I had to for undergrad.
Okay, so you were forced to take in the sort of elective, supportive, additional credit.
You had to do art, so you do 3 of the 4. So I'd already done drawing, intro to theater, and then it was down to music or dance. And music, you had to lug around this huge-ass keyboard around campus, and I ain't doing that shit. I was like, it's down to dance, I guess. I'm an athlete, I can move. I hope it's not too, feminine, all the thoughts that a typical guy has and wear tutus and shit. And so I saw there was a guy teacher this semester. He was new. I didn't know he was this famous dancer from Broadway. How we got him, I have no idea, but he transformed the whole school. They have a whole dance program now because of him and his wife. So I chose it, and in walks this huge, ripped black dude with dreads, and I'm like, fuck yeah, this is gonna be cool. And he was just this amazing lecturer. He's talking about dance, and it was like he made it sound so cool, and I was just wrapped. And then he held all the guys after the class was done. He was like, so I want to do an all-men's piece for the spring dance concert, which is huge on campus, sells out. It's a 3-day event. For whatever reason, that's massive down there. And does anybody want to do that? And then it was crickets.
What was the instructor's name?
Gerald Thomas. He danced in a company called Pilabolus. So Peter Attia, his personal trainer Beth, whatever his name was, she danced in Pilabolus. I wonder if they crossed over. hugely famous dance company, and his wife danced for Merce Cunningham, who's a famous dance.
Well, you said for whatever reason this dance recital was very popular, and it's because of this guy's passion. Like he fired up the community.
He did, but it was big before he was there. Yeah, I have no idea why. It was just established, and they only had a dance minor at the time, and now they have a major, and they have everything because him and his wife plugged in with the other teachers who were also great, and they just made this thing huge. So he held the guys after class, and no one raised their hands because they're like, why am I going to do that? I just want to get through this class. And I was like, yeah, I just want to get this class. It sounds great, but I don't want to do it. And he's like, all right, I'll take away the 10-page paper for whoever wants to do this. And unconsciously, my hand raised because I didn't like writing papers back then. Little did I know I'd be going into psychology where all I did was write, and I wrote a 350-page dissertation. If I would have known then what I was doing. So I volunteered, and he's like, and some other guys raised their hands. And he's like, all right, show up here at the there's a dance hall place where you can do rehearsal. Show up here at this time. And of all the courses on campus, only 4 guys showed up. I almost didn't show up. I almost taught myself out of it, but I showed up. And 4 of us met, and he started talking to us, walking us through things, how to move. And it was like very masculine and strong and totally not what I thought dance was. Modern dance was completely different. I thought we were going to do ballet and stuff. That came later. Really hard. But it's the foundation. And so we did a men's piece, and I really liked it. And then I kept doing it, started taking more dance classes, made it my minor. And my major turned to psychology sort of at this time, too, because I had to declare a major. And then he's like, he started forming a legit dance company that would tour and get paid. He said, you want to audition for that? I was like, oh, fuck. So I did, and I made it in. And then it just got bigger and bigger. But he opened my mind to art, to expression. And out of that came out, who am I? Why am I here? What am I about? Introspection. I didn't really do that because I was told what to do, not let it out. And I got to let it out through my physical body, which was the only way I did that was through sport before, which was cool, but it's like you're doing a sport. This was like, whatever, just get after it. And that got me thinking, and then I started getting into psychology and saw how that kind of interrelates. When you get to know who you are, you can...
So wait a second, you toured as a dancer?
Yeah, we actually got to go to like Hawaii, a couple states. We almost went to Korea once. That company's gone everywhere now. I mean, I only did it for like 6 years, but I was there for its inception. And we got paid a little bit, but it was like real. It was like a real dance company.
You're pro. You get paid.
Technically, yeah.
You're pro.
They're much bigger now, but they both dance for hugely famous dance companies. That could be a later episode if people are curious about that. That's fascinating to me still. But that opened up. Had I not done that, I wouldn't have gone the path of psychology. Probably would have stayed with I was a corrections major. I was like, since I'm not doing the military, I'll do the FBI or something adjacent. And then that all switched.
So, what do you think was so powerful about how the expression of dance that made you start to ask deeper questions to yourself?
What about it?
Yeah. So, like, do you remember, like, you get done with a practice or I don't know, rehearsal or whatever, and then you were like walking home and you were like, what am I about? Like, go there with me, as I want to know how that triggered the conversation.
So it was sort of cumulative. It wasn't like a switch flipping. It was very iterative. Like when you're moving your body and you have to create, like, I went on to do choreography. That was the most fun, creating things. I got best choreography for the spring dance concert once. I got best male dancer twice. Sounds like Chippendales or some shit. It was like a legit award.
Yeah, that's a legit amount of work too.
It was a lot of work, especially not like if you wanted to be a real dancer, you got to do that when you start with like 4, and I started at 20. I should not have been where I was. No way. I got lucky. Only by sheer athleticism and then learning to like move my body in new ways, not rigid sports ways. Like you actually had to move in the way I was trying to avoid, like perceivably effeminate ways. But also you can channel into a masculine sense of movement. It doesn't have to be split off. Like last time we talked about the yin and the yang. very much you need both of those the way in your body. And so in order to do that, you kind of have to check it within yourself, like, who am I, what am I about, what am I expressing here? Especially when you're doing, like, my favorite class was contact improvisation. There ain't no rules. You just run into somebody, you move with them, and you make these weird moves, and you come apart, and you hit up somebody else, and you make these moves that come together. That's a great way to do choreography, because you just make up moves and you video it, and if a cool move comes out of that, you take that and you put it together with other moves into sequencing to make a whole dance piece. That was the most fun, because you got to express and create. It's like, oh, I like to do that, or I like to roll on the ground, or I like to lift somebody up, or be lifted. Pilates was all about that kind of movement. But it broke up that you have to have rules. It broke that up to pieces. Like, life was telling me what to do. I'm at school. My dad said, you got to be here. I mean, I almost dropped out. It's like, the school's too small. It's boring. I dropped down to like 6 credits once, and then schooling for my dad, I was like below full time, and like, I guess something bad happened or something. He came down to make sure I was okay, and he was like playing video games. I was depressed as fuck. I was going to transfer to U of O because I was like the Ducks, like, go Ducks. And I almost did, but had I not taken this dance class and got on me, because right after it said you need to do more, I signed up for that dance class just randomly. I was like, I got to finish these core credits or whatever. And so that put me on that path. But yeah, moving yourself, expressing yourself, you have to introspect, to go within, like, what am I doing here? And what am I creating? And what is the meaning? Back to meaning. What is the meaning?
So,
connecting with other people, that was another one.
The dance class did a few things. It got you moving.
Connecting with
other people. It
non-verbally.
Yeah, forced you to communicate outside of your intellect
without rules. Rules, but.
And then the rule bending and like.
Rule bending, yes.
I think like God, so it's just a shout out to theater classes, because they're so good about taking social cues and then ignoring them. Like
right.
So you have like improv, or like they'll in I took an acting class, and they're like, okay, do everything you just did, but now you're angry and you're going to display anger through this whole thing. Mm-hmm. Now it's the opposite. Now you're going to display sadness through this whole thing. And as for dudes, like, we have lots of rules.
Right.
You can't express emotion, or if you do, it can be anger in some contexts, yes, in certain ways, but you certainly wouldn't reveal that you're sad. You certainly wouldn't have random unscripted physical contact with multiple people.
Bingo.
Right? And you certainly wouldn't like make eye contact.
God forbid.
And be emotionally vulnerable for any length of time, unless it was an accident. Mm-hmm. So all these things, right? And that's just enough to get you curious, and then you're like, huh, I want to know more about this, and this is sort of whole different world of mental health that you start to pursue, mm-hmm, because of just this taste of a different world.
Yeah, that dance pairing with starting to take the psychology classes, like, it started to cross over. There's a good book called Range by David Epstein. Talks about you can be the jack of all trades, and that's good because you're cross-training yourself. You never know what this one modality over here will tickle way over here on the other side of your mind. It's seemingly unrelated, but they connect. That's what was happening.
That's first of all, shout out to the book Range. Second time someone's recommended I read it. If you haven't read it, you should read Range. But yeah, so jump back over to my story, and we'll come back here. But like, I had a major who asked questions in different ways, and it was the first time I heard someone ask like business organization questions, like business coaching questions to our organization. When a mission would happen, and we'd be doing the wrap up and the roll up, and like, okay, how many enemy KIA did we have killed in action? How many enemy POW did we have? How many enemies did we capture? What intelligence did we derive? He would ask things that were like shake your understanding of what success looked like. He's like, how did this benefit us? How did what we did today make the nation of Afghanistan safer? How did we
strategy?
Long-term, bigger vision. How did we interrupt and impede the enemy's ability to conduct operations, not just today, but in a month or 2 months or 6 months? And like if looking through that lens, you start to see like, oh, we have to do more than just wanton destruction of the enemy's assets.
That's just tactics.
We have to actually have purpose on what we're doing.
Yes.
And it just you start asking different questions, it changes how you engage with your job, and you start to
good point.
Say like, okay, if we move on this mission, it's not actually going to have a long-term impact. So let's wait. Let's wait. Let's save our helicopters for something that's worth it.
That tactic won't feed the strategy.
That's right. And so being able to use something context breaking, and have a different mindset and lens to apply to an area that you're not yet familiar with that way. And so then you got into. Was it an instant? Did you feel like, oh, this is it when you started to take psychology classes? And
no, never, zero switch flipping. This is what I'm talking about. Like, it's an iterative process with a lot of this stuff. Some people get those aha moments, but I'm like, I run into a wall like 12 times, and the 13th time I go, oh, there's a door. Oh, let's see what's behind that. And then it's like, I don't have to bang my head against the wall anymore. That's just me. Some people are a lot smarter than I am, and they just go, oh, there's a damn door, and they walk through it. But most of us, it's like, it's that failing forward, banging our heads. Like, will this time work? No. But bang, 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 bang. Oh, bing. Let's go down this path. This seems right. So I minored in dance and majored in psychology, and was done. And then at that point, I moved to Germany. Another hard right or left or whatever you want to talk about. And there's a whole other backstory to what was going on there. But.
Well, so I love the era of frustration. I had a good conversation with my friend Scott talking about like being depressed in Germany. I think
synchronicities.
Germany does it. Just Germany will depress you. It's the same weather as Oregon. It's cold, it's dark, it's rainy, it's gray.
Look how many freaking philosophers and psychologists come from Germany, Austria, or Switzerland, bro. Yeah, there's something about that place.
Yeah, and Goethe. I love Goethe.
Goethe?
Goethe. It's not Goethe?
No, everyone says Goethe or Goethe. It's Goethe. This is the cool thing about living in Germany. Learn to pronounce things.
Okay.
Like, it's not Nietzsche, it's Nietzsche. It's not Jung, it's Jung.
All right,
it's not Freud, it's Freud.
Yeah, this is Hochdeutsch people. I'm a Bavarian.
Hochdeutsch, yeah.
I'm a Bavarian, so I can be lazy.
Genau. Exactly. Fischkupfer is what they called us. They're North Germans. Fish heads. Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Polar opposite of the Bayern folk.
Yes. It doesn't sound the same. When the numbers don't sound the same.
Nope. It's softer in the north. Ich instead of ich.
That's right.
It's like that's like coming here in Portland and going down to like the south and hearing a different accent. It's got some similarities there.
Yeah, that's right. They drink more. They lazier R's. Yeah.
Got the lederhosen. Don't do that in the north. They make fun of them.
Oh, I was talking about Georgia.
Yeah. They got that down there too, probably. They got the cowboy hats and stuff.
That's right.
Which is also cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
So the point is that you take a turn towards what you want, and then it doesn't instantly pay off, and that there's more frustration. But along the way, when did you decide to go and get your master's?
When I got back from Germany, I was like, need a job. And my girlfriend at the time, her brother worked for Nike, and he got me a job at Nike. I started working there, and I was like, this is fun. But again, there was no purpose behind it. Like, I wasn't really scratching the itch. Then I remembered, you have this degree in psychology. Let me go ahead and try to use it. And so I got a job working at an intensive treatment program my part was for boys who had dual diagnosis. So they had all kinds of trauma, and then maybe some Asperger's or autism, like a lot of shit going on. It was like in a lockdown facility where I had to do like holds sometimes. It was brutal. Really good work, but brutally sad. And I can get a little emotional just thinking about it. Like some of these kids, like putting them to bed at night, like these guys had the worst parents on earth, or no parents. And like they would just love it that you would sit there and tuck them into bed. Like they never fucking got that. And that was the best part. You know, and you could just see the sadness, like going to these rooms where they're in a lockdown facility. Like when we got to take them on outings, it was just amazing. Yeah, they got to leave, but that was time limited. Really good work, but it didn't pay shit. And I was like, okay, if I keep doing this, back to the money thing, like I like this, but I can't. As a single guy, I could live with 12 roommates for 10 years, sure, but I don't want to do that. Would like to do the have a wife and kids thing. So then I thought, okay, well, you have to get a graduate degree. So I was really getting into meditation at the time, just was curious and learning on my own. I literally typed into Google meditation and master's degree in psychology, and 2 schools popped up. California School of Integral Studies and Naropa University. And I picked Naropa because you had to do meditation retreats at the end of the year. 2-month-long one and 1 week-long one. And it was intertwined, Buddhist psychology, all that stuff was intertwined with all the Western psych. And it was like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I picked that one. I didn't apply for the other one. I was like, see what happens. Did the essay, went down and interviewed. Pretty hard to get into, not super hard, but only 30 people each year or whatever you get in. And you're with the same cohort through the 3 years, so you get really tight. And the first year it's pretty high attrition rate. You lose like at least 10 people, 5-10 people. And that happened, and it drops a little bit, so it gets even tighter. And that was amazing. And then finished that, and then I started working. And before you get your license, you have to get your hours, so you're working for a mental health center. And I went back to my corrections past and started working for the corrections world again. And my first job was group psychotherapy with repeat DUI offenders.
Yeah.
The second hardest job I've ever had. These guys had no clue what they were doing. They're like, here's some like psychoeducational stuff, and there are 50 people in there. Go fix them. 50 people in a group with one facilitator, that is insane in the membrane. And so I just basically said, hey, fill this paperwork out. And then I just did the group psychotherapy I was trained at Naropa, which, by the way, was fucking great. They really treated me well in group therapy, yeah. And that shit worked. It was so hard with one person. I should have had 2 or 3 other therapists in there, but made it work really good. Getting my hours, again, no pay. A little bit better than before, but still no pay. That's when I was stuck, like, living in like low-income housing and stuff. Like, really rough. But getting the hours, and then I worked at a halfway house, and then I worked in a jail, which is to this day, besides doing private practice, was the best job I've ever had. Working in a jail setting was amazing. Really, really powerful.
What was important about the jail?
I actually felt like I was doing something. And this program was really genius. It was a grant-funded position, so you work with them in the jail, and if they got out of jail and didn't go to prison, which all of them did. If you go to jail, it's either you're waiting to go to prison or you had a short term, 2 years or under, and you can't be in jail for longer than 2 years. Some of these guys just had like repeat DUIs or drug offenses or something, domestic violence, and they had a 2-year sentence. And the problem is when people come out, if they don't have support, what do you think they're going to do? Go back to their supports, which are where they were. Yeah. So what do you think they're going to do? So we had a facility outside where they could come get therapy, and we had case managers who would help them get a job, housing, and help them. So they're getting the treatment and they're getting the psychosocial stuff that they need. It was great. It worked. So I did group therapy, individual therapy, and assessments in the jail, and I got really close with the deputies. I could walk into the modules by myself. The deputies that rarely do that. Like, why do you go in there? It's fucking dangerous. And like, I felt safe. Like my guys, if somebody did anything, they wouldn't hesitate. It was like a gang mentality. It was like, it felt a little bit too good. I missed that squad mentality, you know? Sure. Like that military feel I always wanted. I kind of felt that. Yeah. I can see why men form gangs. I totally can see why we do that. Yeah. And it was interesting, but I felt like it was really helping these guys and doing group therapy with men for the first time, because prior it was the DUI offenders was men and women. By the way, groups with men and women, way harder than just men.
Yeah.
Like significantly harder. But with just dudes, it's easier. Harder in some ways, but on balance easier. But I felt like it was actually helping people.
What do you think the difficulty is in co-ed?
It kicks up family dynamics. So projection, projective identification, all this stuff comes up. Like you remind my sister or my father, or when I'm in a family, I'm the one that's quiet, or I yell and I fight. It kicks all that stuff up. It will in men's groups too, but it's like some guys like, well, I can't say that to a woman, or I have to, you do that dance you grew up with, but that's good because you can learn to do it in a healthy environment with the therapist, where you can be open or vulnerable, is the word we hate as men, in front of a woman, and she's not going to kick you in the balls. Watch. It's okay. You can say what you mean. But it's a lot harder, and vice versa. Like I'm going to sit with guys who've always like treated me bad or beat me up. Like I'm not going to do that. Or whatever dynamic comes up, it's way more soupy, way more difficult. Jesus. But powerful, very powerful.
So you took a turn from a dance class that led you to going overseas, that led you to operating back in the world of psychology in different environments, whether it was with youth or people in jails. Mm-hmm. And the more exposure you got, difficult or easy, fulfilling or not, you knew you were swimming in the right water.
Correct. Yeah, I knew this was gaining traction. I liked it. And then I noticed part of me was like, I want to go all the way. I want to do the PhD thing. It sets you apart. There's a legion amount of master's level or social worker therapists. Like 1% of people get PhDs in the world across the board. And it's like, maybe it was that part of me that wanted to be Spec Ops all my life. Well, I'm going to do the fucking psychology version of Spec Ops. I'm going to get a PhD. So that's what led me to Pacifica Graduate Institute. And what screwed me was like, I should have done the clinical psychology program, but I did one that doesn't require you to get a clinical psychology degree. You just get a PhD, but you're licensed at the master's level. It's like, I just went in private practice. Had I done the clinical psych one, I could have worked in the military. I'd be in the military right now as a clinical psychologist. Like 10 years ago, I would have already done it. But they don't allow it. You have to be a clinical psychologist or a social worker. There's no such thing as a master's level in the military. It makes no sense because it's an equivalent degree. But I didn't know that. I had no idea. Because I thought I just want to do private practice. I don't want to do psychometric testing. I don't want to do teaching. That's what you get as a clinical psychologist. I didn't want to do any of that stuff.
So when you say it screwed you, it didn't screw you in terms of ideology or content. It screwed
Correct.
you in terms of the opportunity for service in a particular role in a particular branch.
In the military?
Yeah.
Yes. I didn't know it would do that. Because I tried to go into the Navy, and then that's when I found out, like, oh, sorry. It's so dumb. It's still dumb. And every recruiter I've talked to, they bang their heads against the wall. Like, makes no sense. I've been talking to an Army major recently, and she's like, I would take you right now. Literally take you right now. But
the military is I love the military's method for training and application, because you get to do so much crazy shit with what on the outside outside of academia is considered very minimal training, because everything is very practical. So like if you take like a paramedic,
right,
what a paramedic does is something that you could do, that pieces of combat lifesavers do, that Army medics do. And the combat lifesaver course is a week. Army medic course, I think, is 12 weeks. Special Forces medical officer is like a year.
Should be.
Yeah.
Or like PJs. That's the most badass medical role ever. Your Spec Ops and your medical.
I think they train at the same one. I think it's JFK Special Warfare Center. They have a hospital. Yeah.
That'd be aside from being a psychologist, that would be my second choice. Something like that.
Yeah, they do field surgeries, just radical shit. But on the outside, like you could walk into like the equivalent is this is why it's bizarre. So inside the military, you're doing crazy surgical level shit, and outside you're like a paramedic. Which paramedics, shout out to paramedics, like
Oh, hell yeah.
that's real.
Yeah.
Like that's real work. It's just so much more dirty and intense in the military, and outside it's like a medic, like a combat medic, regardless of how much experience they have with trauma, would essentially have no role in civilian.
Right.
They might be able to be an ambulance driver.
I can carry my M4 with me?
Well, no, they just, but like the work that you're, it's essentially paramedic work, but it has none of the minimum qualifications that like a paramedic has on the outside. So they couldn't get a job as an EMT, right?
That doesn't make any sense.
And no, it makes zero sense. Like, which is like is why so the service members get effed, but that's why there's such a going inside and out the equal level of responsibility. Responsibility does not equal what you're going to be doing on the when you cross the civilian military barrier.
Another problem we have.
Yes,
transitions. Problems with transitions is another prior podcast we'll do.
Yeah, trans rights is a big concept for Miles. He really wants to
transition.
he's all about supporting trans people and their struggles.
As I do in this practice.
But. That's right. That's right. The conversation that we're highlighting is like you can get stuck in the Miles was inside what he cares about but couldn't figure out how to get paid. I was doing what I was good at and what I cared about, but I spent too much time on what I could get paid and not on the greater like picture in the fitness industry and how I could apply my skills. And it's really easy to get fixated in like, are you good at this? Is this what is there a role this in the world? Is it a problem that needs to be solved? Or is it just a curiosity? And some people to like to look at are some ideas to research. We talked about the Ikigai circles. Viktor Frankl has a book, Man's Search for Meaning, which is a quick read. It's only 180 pages.
But it's deep.
It's a big one.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Yeah, it's a big one. But in it, he helps himself and Holocaust survivors discover why they're on this planet, and through his framework. And it's very simple. He's got a very simple rubric, which is essentially something you're here to do something that only you can do. And what I really love about that is the fact that it's unique. It's not just to your strengths, to your passions, but it's unique to you. Nobody else can write your book. Nobody else can raise your kids. Nobody else can do what you're here to do something. You have to. It's your job to discover it. So great book. Check it out. It'll make you a better person.
Absolutely.
The Trauma to Dharma. It's another book that is great on finding your dharma, which is a whole what?
Who's the author, by the way?
Trauma to Dharma. That's a great one. I'll look it up right now.
I have not read that one.
But dharma is a word that it's been really popular over the last few years. Been co-opted a little bit, but it translates to sacred duty or soul's purpose. What else does it mean?
I'm going to add this to my Amazon wish list right now. Trauma to Dharma. It's a great title, by the way.
Azita Nahai.
There she is. PhD. There you go, PhD. Boom. Transform your pain into purpose. I love it.
So, trauma to dharma. So sacred duty, like what I love about your dharma is you're on a your spirit, your soul is on a journey that your body is only partly here for. Like in my belief structure is if you're on the path of a warrior, your soul has chosen all of the events in your life, and everything, your who you are, where you're at, the pains, the failures, the frustrations, the successes have been chosen to grow you and grow your soul. And you're here, I am here to live out my life's purpose in response to the journey that my soul has already chosen.
And what do you think she means by the word dharma? Because that means different things in different, like Hinduism versus Buddhism versus the lay term.
I think she means, great question.
Because in Buddhism it means like teachings or journeys.
I think that she means I think part of it is you're here to heal a wound that your soul has. That's why your soul chose the trauma that you have endured.
It becomes your dharma.
That's correct.
I like it.
And it segues right into the Gary Shandling quote. He wrote this on a napkin and gave it to Judd Apatow, which was give more, give what you didn't get, love more, let go of your old story. And this is right off of Healing the Inner Child. And like whatever you didn't get growing up, the nurturing you didn't get is the nurturing you're here to give. And
that's how you get it.
That's how you get it. That's how you get it.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And say that. Why is it? Tell me about love. Why is giving and gratitude and love? Why is it as healing for the giver as it is the receiver?
I think you should get out of yourself and your ego, what your ego thinks it needs, and it's always looking for someone else to give it to you, rather than you actually just doing it. And by doing it, you experience it, and you go, "Oh, that's it," and you go, "Oh, I could actually get this myself." And by the way, if you give that to other people, you're probably going to get it back.
So there's a reciprocal.
Yeah, it's not transactional, but you do it when no one's looking, kind of a thing, not expecting anything, but it'll probably come back. But you can give it to yourself too, like self-talk and introspection, back to that again. But by giving it, you're doing the act, and you get the feeling of what that feels like for the first time, perhaps, because you like getting back to growing up in the 70s and 80s. Interesting time, but a rough time. Shout out to all the late millennials and Gen Xers out there. We didn't get a lot from our parents on balance because they didn't get that either. That's a whole other conversation. But we've had to fill in that gap of like, what is it to do relationship, to be a parent. We had to do a lot of that for our parents because they didn't get from their parents. Like we had to tell our parents who they were rather than telling us who we are. And so we got to go give that to other people if we didn't get enough being seen or attention. Well, let's give that to our significant others or our friends and see what that's like. And then in the doing, you get the feeling and you kind of get a taste of what that's like. And then you start to give it to yourself, whatever that looks like. And that can take on a lot of forms.
There's I think in Nonviolent Communication.
Good book, Marshall Rosenberg.
I think he says that if you're in a conflict with somebody, if you just seek to understand them and then don't really worry about anything else.
Yes, and drop your ego for a second.
The person you're talking to is going to feel heard for the first time in a long time.
It's going to feel good.
And they're going to have a sense of relief.
Yes, relief.
And that is reason enough to communicate that way. Because I remember the first time I was listened to as a kid. My grandfather would ask really good questions and care about the answers. And I remember the sense of relief that I had feeling very feeling understood. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that I had a strong sense of justice until I voiced that to my grandfather because he was asking questions. Mm-hmm. So I learned that justice is really important to me.
Feels good to be seen, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's you mentioned we told our parents what they were instead of them telling us who we are.
Or helping us understand.
Or helping us understand who we are. And I feel like that segues into the concept of identity. And like as I have all these verbal pauses around identity, there is a analogy of figuring out your identity is like playing the mafia game, or is it the murder game, the mystery murder, where you have a bunch of people who are playing this game. One of them is the murderer, one of them is the detective, one of them is people are witnesses. But you don't know what you are, but you have your a name tag on your forehead.
That's a good analogy.
And you have to pick up by how everyone is talking to you.
Exactly.
What your role, what your identity is. Are you the murderer? Are you the suspect? Or whatever.
That's childhood.
And that's identity, because a lot of times we don't think we're smart or stupid, fast or slow, strong or weak. People keep telling us we are the something, and they only mean that's compared to them.
Correct.
Right? They're reference, but we pick up, we identify, we have this, we have a sticky adhesive material on our soul, and we pick up those labels and we hold on to them. But negative labels, studies shown that negative labels last longer than positive labels. So if someone says you're smart, as soon as you do a stupid thing, you kind of forget about it. Like, or you say, well, I'm smart, this should be easy, I should be good at this, right? And we start to beat ourselves up. But the identity thing, people keep telling us and treating us a certain way, and then we infer. So this is where a lot of the damage comes into play. Because kids, if your parents are fighting, or if things are going on, or there's dramatic changes, kids internalize a lot of things, because you can't really, unless you explain it to them and help them process an experience, they think they're generating it.
Yep.
Because they're young.
They're egocentric at that age.
Yeah, they don't know how the world works.
They do not.
And so a lot of times we think we're more powerful than we are. And like you said, we start to take care of our parents, then we think, we take care of other people. We take care of our family in an emotional way, and often an inappropriate way. And then that creates codependency or enmeshment, or side effects of enmeshment. And we have a hard time, gelling or solidifying an identity that is unique to us, empowering, and adjustable. And we early on, at least for me, I had a fixed mindset. It's like, I'm this kind of person. Everyone tells me I'm angry. I'm fucking angry.
I must be an angry person.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a good book. Mindset.
Carol Dweck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Growth versus fixed mindset.
Huge.
I read that a long time ago. I'm glad she's blowing up right now. Like, she's always been good, but again, so many Stanford professors, like listen to Huberman Lab, and he has all these professors on from Stanford, and they're like, oh, Carolyn Dweck went to Stanford? Like, so many good people came out of there. It's a great school. I mean, go Ducks, but Stanford's a great school.
Well, there's been some trash coming out of Stanford too, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, like the football team or what?
Well, no, they've been good. Lately, not recently. Yeah. So, our identity is how everyone is, like, we pick up on this identity that we have. We don't know that we can actually create it, and we can change it. But it seems like, especially early on, I think this is where a lot of our depression comes from. When, like, me in the Army, I don't like this. Like, I'm supposed to be a tough, hard-ass, angry kid. I actually didn't love being in the Army, and the part of the competition I liked. I love serving my country. I love the Army's mission, but there was a lot of things I didn't understand because I'm around a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds, and we're all hyper masculine and fighting with each other all
No
the time.
prefrontal cortex yet.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know if I gel with all of this. Like, I don't. This is not super fun. But I didn't know that I could adjust my identity, and I didn't understand that these things were not handed to me. I didn't create them, and I could change them.
Correct.
So, in terms of figuring out your own identity, the role you wanted to play, gosh, you're still working on this. So right now, you seem, just from everything you've explained to me, through a painful process of elimination and falling down the stairs, you seem like you've found your identity, your role, you're living your values, you are chasing your passions and curiosity, playing to your strengths. And you also are sort of feeling this sort of hungry soul sort of craving right now for something more. Mm-hmm. When you think about the Ikigai diagram, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, so your strengths, what your financial opportunities are, what the world needs, or where do you feel like there's like, which one of those feels weakest, or where do you feel like you're missing something, or is it none of those?
It's always a lifelong process. I think we think we're going to arrive somewhere and be done. I mean, this just keeps happening. It's just these transitions come big, but I think they creep. But you always want to be learning and growing. And I may be in 20 years completely different, who knows? Or I might just have grown these out even more. Right now it just feels like there needs to be more. What I'm doing now, but adjacent, I need to scale up somehow. Like one version is doing a podcast like this. I've always thought about it. And what always gets in my way is shame and fear. Those are big ones. And for all of us, fear is an obvious one, but that's a clue. Like, why am I so afraid of doing that? Maybe I should be doing that. And then shame, I'm not good enough. I'm an inherent black stain, and I can't do it because I'm bad. Versus guilt, which is behavior-based, like, oh, I'm still a good person, and my behavior wasn't that great. I can sort of judge that and remedy it. Shame is like, I'm bad. I don't even want to think about the thing that triggers that shame. I'm going to go hide in this pit. And one of my therapists said, like, shame is a great way to avoid having to do your work. You can just go sit in that pit and not have to do anything. It hurts, but it hurts less than the perceived pain that you think is going to happen if you go out of shame and do the things you're going to do and get told you're bad. I'll feel this shit feeling of shame versus be told and be confirmed, yes, you are bad. That's even worse. That's in the shadow, that's in the exile realm and internal family systems. Those are the core wounds. And my somewhat traumatic upbringing, it's all relative. People had way worse upbringings than I did. Mine was
equivocation, apologizing. Good. We all caught that on tape.
There we go. We all got it. And I don't want to disrespect my parents at all because I did the best I could, but divorce sucks, and not having parents around enough sucks, or having too much of one parent sucks. I generate a lot of shame and fear. Like if I go out here, I'm going to get confirmed that yes, you are bad. And so I've self-sabotaged a ton, or avoided a ton, or procrastinated a ton. And those things get in my way when I try to make a move. But again, like we talked about earlier, like you have to pick your pain. Do you want the pain of growth and opportunity and like joy, like thriving in life? Like it's going to take pain to get there, but that's much better than sitting in shame. That shit sucks. But which pain do you choose? And I've had it, that's been hitting me over the head over and over. Like, bro, you're not making moves. You're sitting in your shame. Like, hey, I've done some things. Like, on balance, you could call me successful. I've done some things and done interesting things. But again, back to like the psyche beckoning you to do more. It's been hitting hard. And those come in the form of symptoms called depression, anxiety. Like that's a symptom for a reason. We have to listen to that. And what we do in our culture is we like to anesthetize pain, right? If you bang your knee, automatically start rubbing it, look down, you tend to it. Am I bleeding out? Did I break it? Like, you do something. It's emotional pain. We go, la 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 la, la la, doesn't hurt. Or we obsess and go deep and we get stuck in it.
So you're saying a lot here.
Occupational hazard, I'm sorry.
No, it's good. No, well, like, it's super dense, but I wanted to pick that apart because actually, anesthetizing is good because I think it's difficult. Okay, maybe Gary Vaynerchuk and Jocko and some people just grind. But he doesn't. He surfs. Surfing is how he detaches and gets away.
He detaches, yeah. He doesn't disconnect. He distances.
So the difference is he's detaching, he's not disassociating.
Correct. Great words. Yes.
So
big difference.
Audience, what we mean by this is, so it is okay to watch a movie, have a drink, relax, get away.
Not 24/7 though.
But when you're those things, and I like the term anesthetize because it was specific to a pain. You don't have to sit in your frustration and just work yourself to the bone, because like the common theory is like, okay, if I'm anxious about something, start preparing. Well, you can't just like read books and journal and hang upside down and do crunches all the time. You have to relax, like truly let your brain go. And for some people, it's playing music or surfing or martial arts or whatever it is.
Meditation.
But it doesn't like, I am not of the mind that it has to be quote unquote healthy. Like, I don't smoke pot, but if some people smoke weed and use it as you can overdo anything. But like, I'm fine with anything to a small measured specific use. I think that the problem is as you said, is in America, we binge watch the TV. We binge drink. We don't just want to get a moment of escape. We need to numb. We need to push down and repress the things that are coming up for us.
Yes. And
that magnifies the problem.
It's trying to tell us something. What is that emotion trying to tell you? What's going on inside? What's the message? Shoot the messenger.
There's a message. Well, that's a whole nother episode when you have to interpret emotions and what they're for. But that's right. We want to avoid the discomfort of feeling it. We want to avoid the work of having to respond to it.
There we go.
So you were saying is that you're feeling some pressure. The hose is kinked, and you're feeling the old wounds come up of not being enough and questioning your value and who am I to be sharing my ideas and thoughts and this is interrupting the flow. And like the hose is a perfect analogy because then when you unkink the hose to relieve the pressure and then the power flows naturally through the hose.
That's probably why I'm talking so much, because it's letting it out.
That's what we want, man. That's what we want. And like also like I want to go back to role, because it's very like a lot of times we have passions and strengths and value that our role will not allow us to fully realize. And I'll give you an example. When I was a gym owner and I was a young trainer, I helped other trainers because like it was so hard for me to figure out how to do like. There's 100,000 health coaches right now who have certifications and no clients because people really want to be in the health space and help people, but they don't know how to have the conversations, how to do things. So one of the things I always did when I was a young gym owner is trainers that didn't know what they were doing, I would let them intern for me for a while and take my spreadsheets, take my systems, take my contracts. I'd show them how to register a business. I'd show them how to sell. I'd show them how to get into the game so they could play in the game because it was so much fun. And it was something that I just wanted to do. And I wasn't getting paid for that. That was a role that was outside of the role that I had as a fitness coach, but it made me feel really good.
Trailhead.
Yeah, trailhead. Exactly. And then fast forward, so I was a strength coach and I was a fitness coach, and then the pandemic happened, and I was so stuck in the session that I couldn't see how I could provide value outside of the session. And I couldn't have sessions anymore because we were shut down. And I was part of a bunch of networking group, or I was in a couple of professional groups for coaches and trainers, and everybody was talking about remote coaching. Have them work on their nutrition, have them work on their home workouts. That's what the whole world was doing. So it's like everyone knows the conversation you're about to have with somebody. So it's like, let's talk about what we can do. And I'd never sold over the phone. I'd never done a lot of things. I've had some enrollment conversations over the phone, but nothing like I was about to have happen because I was going to spend months doing it. And so I got I had a whiteboard in my office, and then I wrote down a yes column and a no column. And so the job for me was to get on the phone with old clients, new clients, people from just cold traffic from Facebook, and just to have a 15-minute conversation with them to see if they wanted to start a program that we could only service over the phone. Or, we would have a video conference call or something once a week, once every 2 weeks. And I'd never done it. I had no idea what was going on. I just had a script, and that was it. And I just jumped into it. And I got told no so many times. But guess what? My gym was closed. I had nothing else to do. I had no money. And I was stuck. So I had no choices. Mm-hmm. So I just stayed on the phone. Mm-hmm. And I fucking hated it, right? I hated it. And it's like no. I had so many no's chalked up in that column. And then after 18 conversations, the 19th person said yes.
There you go for no. There's a book called that.
I cried so, because it revealed to me that this was possible.
Yeah.
It could happen if I just got better at this conversation. Like, I knew that we could do this, or that it was an asset. But what it did is it expanded my role from an in-person strength coach to being a health and fitness coach who could have what I call remote offering, or an online only offering. And so that expanded my world so much, because you can service anybody, on the planet with that, and expanded my reach. And then I had to grow a new batch of skills and a new batch of ways I communicate. And I didn't have a choice, and I hated it. But once I started to get in a role, I actually realized, like, what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to get on a YouTube and teach a YouTube fitness class. I didn't want to do that.
Plenty of that out there.
Yeah, and there's plenty of that out there. It wasn't helping me. It wasn't helping. It just sucked the life out of me when we had to do that for the gym.
I bet.
So there was a completely different thing. But then I got to start to realize that there's many roles that I can fill and play to my strengths and have the impact that I want. And eventually I realized that I could help other coaches, set their businesses up and let them play the game better. I could help people and all this. And then what this did was it made my day, my week. It gave me a bunch of a palette of colors to choose from and how I could have an impact. And then a whole range of skills to develop. So instead of just squats and deadlifts, then I could I had sprints, and then I had chin-ups, then I had interval. So I had all these different ways to use my skill set to have a deeper and more meaningful life for me and for the population I'm serving. So that was a example of kind of what you're talking about, is your role is limiting you, and then pressure from the inside or from the outside creates a need to shift, and you'll get a new role or an additional role that will force you to grow and come from in some fun ways and some not fun ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the joy of this journey that your soul has chosen.
Yes, sir.
So, we've talked about Viktor Frankl, Ikigai, talked about the Dharma, the Gary Shandling quote one more time. Give more, give what you didn't get, love more, let go of the old story. What's your story? The old story is whatever reason you've sold yourself that you can't have what you want. But if you want to have a deeper conversation on that, Tony Schwartz has a book called The Power of Story, where he forces you to write your old story, which that one you'll cry a lot.
Add to cart.
Yeah. It's a great book. I actually have a copy of my old story. It's in one of my notebooks, and I read it sometimes to just. It's so bizarre and dystopian that it's humbling to understand what my mind my frame of mind was when I wrote that.
Journaling's hard but powerful. Absolutely a good practice.
Well, journaling with a purpose, like having a prompt, like that's worth it. Like I'm not somebody who just intuitively will write down all my problems in a journal. I need a prompt. Because I got a lot of problems, Miles.
Yeah, there are two ways to. Yeah, there's the free association way, or you can journal with your parts and internal family systems, or you can have ones that are prompts. There are plenty of great ones out there. Like I do the Daily Stoic one, Ryan Holiday's. That's great. It's easy. Well, paragraph, one in the morning, one in the evening.
Oh, I've got that. I need to work it out.
Very good.
So, if you're having a crisis of purpose, I mean, This is such an important conversation because having a role, like, if you're alive and you're listening to this podcast, like, you have something to give, and if you're not contributing, if you're not serving, Muhammad Ali said, "Service is the rent we pay for the space we take up on Earth," and I'm in full agreement with that. And you can feel that. Like, you can feel like you don't have a place or a space if you're not contributing. And we need this ship needs all hands on deck. So if you're not contributing, then you need to investigate why. It's nobody else is going to come rescue you and tell you what your role is. We wish that someone would knock on your door and say, "It's time, Miles. It's time.
Here's your 10-point plan."
Yeah, you have to train to fight the Russian now. But yeah, I don't know what the conversation for women is, but a man needs a purpose. I don't have a ton of experience with the female end of this, the women's end of this, but I've heard some women coaches say that sometimes a woman's purpose is to support their partner and their purpose, or to be a mom, and it's more of a nurturing role that's nurturing to us, and obviously there's, millions of women who own businesses and have very powerfully defined purposes, like specific to them. Great.
Quite the opposite sometimes, yeah.
And so I think everyone needs a purpose, and I think if you're a man, it's especially important you get clear on this, because I feel like the pain of not being on purpose is destructive.
Yeah, it sure hurts.
And
you can see it.
Yeah, I mean, just look at crime statistics, look at mental health statistics.
School shooters.
Self-inflicted, mass shootings. The real terrorism. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Addictions.
Yeah, so fucking get on purpose. God damn it.
Here are your orders.
Yeah, that's right. And then what are your strengths? What are you good at? Your curiosity. What would you do if you? We didn't talk about values as much, but that was one of the first values for me. Gave me something to emulate. The Army has values, and that was the first time that I'd heard values used in a structured conversation. The Army values are loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and...
You get busted here.
Ooh, what is the... It starts with a P. Its leadership is the acronym, and the P is...
Prudence? Purpose?
Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, integrity... Okay.
Maybe the one you struggle with?
Physical fitness.
You're a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's just so obvious.
Yeah. It's like, what? Yeah. And the Army values are pretty great, pretty good, pretty generic, but it's also pretty obvious. Like when you are doing your job as a soldier in the United States Army, you're living all those almost all the time.
Mm.
Integrity just being for me congruent with your with your stated values and stated purpose. Like, so integrity doesn't mean being honest all the time. It means fidelity to the reason you're there. So if sometimes that means telling an uncomfortable truth, or being staying in alignment with the rest of your purpose and values, your mission, if you will. And so that's also pretty generic, because anybody can be loyal. Everybody should have a sense of duty. Although the meat of this conversation is that's unclear. But when I was in therapy, when I was in crisis, I needed to get deeper clarity on my personal values. So I did an exercise with my therapist where you pick somebody living or dead, fictional or not, real, someone you know or don't know, but that you deeply admire, and all the reasons you admire them, and what you distill from that is values that are aspirational, and some of them you probably already have. Mm-hmm. And when I did that, I realized that generosity, compassion, and wisdom were three of the missing ones, and I began the work of integrating those, and it was very important to me. So, a values exercise. If you don't know what your values are, do them. They're not what you. They're not the values you. Family is not one of my values. Like, it's not what you think they're supposed to be on there. It's what is really. What would you drop everything for? There's people in my phone right now that if they called me and told me that I had to murder someone, I'd say, give me a name. I'm not joking. Like they're like I'm loyal, and like
so loyalty is a value.
Yeah, loyalty is a value. What else? Integrity. This one gets me into trouble. I have a lot of integrity. It's also inconvenient.
Highly.
It's inconvenient because sometimes you have to do what people don't want you to do because of your integrity. Mm-hmm. Holding people accountable is one of my that's my role, and so sometimes that means that not that I make them feel bad, but I remind them of their commitments.
Right.
And the consequences of their actions.
Right.
And they don't like me for that. Sometimes they love me for that, but they also hate me for that.
Well, it's like being a parent. It's the same thing.
Exactly right. So these your values are inconvenient for you, but they're more inconvenient to not have, because when you know what you're about, then it makes the decision that if you know what your values are, your decision making process is easy. If you don't know what your values are, then you lose a lot of sleep unnecessarily.
You're lost.
Yeah, exactly. Should I steal from the company? It is $1 million. No, I mean, like our leadership in America, corporate leadership all around the world. I mean, there's so many examples of people who are willing to sell out because it's very difficult to say no to life-changing amounts of money or fame or whatever. That insert the ego feed.
Correct.
When Stewie Griffin, I don't know why this is a Family Guy. Yeah. Stewie's trying to bribe somebody. He's like, I'll give you anything you want. Money, power, women, men.
It's the best character in that
show. All right. All of those things should make it a little bit more clear what your purpose is. And if you're having trouble integrating or executing on any of those, call Miles. Just give him send him an email, tell him you want to talk. He'll help you sort it.
We'll sort it out.
Anything to add before we wrap up in this one?
One thing that came up, so in the social work realm, I'm ripping this off from them. It's one of the things I actually do well. They have this thing called the magical question. You're trying to figure out purpose and meaning, and it's something like, what would you do every day, all day, if you knew you couldn't fail and money was no object, like you would just get paid, what would you do? And whatever comes to your mind doesn't matter. What image you get or whatever flash comes before your brain is a trailhead of what that might be. Like if you just thought of a motorcycle, great. Maybe it's something around motorcycles. Is it being a tour guide or riding a motorcycle around the country or whatever? That's a trailhead. But what would you do every day if you knew you couldn't fail and you can get paid as much as you want, or if money wasn't part of the factor of what would you do?
It's such an important question, and a lot of times the answer is discounted.
Absolutely.
People say things that are short-sighted, like, I'd get bottle service at the club every night. I was like, you're gonna get tired of that.
Yeah, think more on this one.
That's the numbing that you want to do now because you're not in Lent. And maybe your answer is I'd spend a few months on the beach sipping a margarita. Cool, but you're gonna get bored of that too.
So maybe the answer is, I want to take a break. Right? Maybe that's what's the most immediate for you. I want to relax. Cool, follow that. Then ask this question again. Virtual high five?
No, regular high five. I was just listening to a podcast. One of my digital mentors, James Wedmore, he was talking about. He said exactly that. It's like, what if you're feeling burnt out? He's like, rest. If you just don't want to do anything,
take a pause.
Go home. Go home. Read a book. Listen to music. Dance. Get over it. It's like, don't grind your teeth until your eyes bleed.
Yeah.
Like, get over it. Just rest. That's what your body's asking for. So your brain is asking for.
New text. Yeah.
Maybe you do need to rest. I love it. I love it. Great hack. What would you do if you couldn't fail and it was for fun and you didn't need anything from it?
Yeah, money was no object, or you could get paid as much as you want. Let's not let that be a roadblock. Just keep asking that question. See what comes up.
I dig it. Okay, cool. Well, I feel complete.
Check.
All right, man.